Roar. Growl. Snarl. Bellow.
Welcome to Pale Bites, the podcast that, like getting attacked by a bunch of raptors, is a gruesomely bad time. My name is Matthew Dahl, and each week I and a rotating series of guest co-hosts talk about and rate a genus of prehistoric animal, be it dinosaur, mammal, arthropod, and so on. This week I'm joined by someone who just showed me a deranged YouTube cartoon. It's Ben O'Regan. How are you?
I'm good.
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw that on you. But to be fair, you threw that one onto me, and I'm like, I won't describe it, don't worry, for listeners, but I'm just like, wow, man, that's... It's weird, it's gross, but speaking of weird and gross, not really, guys. Actually, this is fascinating. We're talking about a little creature that I only recently learned of that is fascinating in that you look at it and you're like, oh, that's a weird little harmless-looking dinosaur. And no, it's got different origins. It's a pterosauromorph archosaur, which means this is the closest thing we've ever found to what eventually became pterosaurs or pterodactyls. Like, we've been debating it for a century, but what it is specifically. But in 2022, when they did a CT scan of the fossils, this might actually be like, they were like, wow, this might actually be a pterosaur. Even though it doesn't look like one, but it makes sense.
The Wikipedia page for it even as a demonstration of it in motion, like walking. I thought, whoa, this thing looks like it was uncomfortable to walk as.
Oh yeah, I mean, it makes sense it would start flying then, huh? Like, or it would hop. Maybe I think it might have hopped.
When I just look at the image by Woodward in 1907 on there, and like you'll see what I mean, the walking animation for it, so to speak. Well, it just looks uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm sure. Hold on.
Like a dinosaur trying to walk in high heels. Ugh.
Oh, for sure. It looks like a mix between a frog and a greyhound. So
it does.
Yeah, so greyhounds are... Look, no offense to people who like greyhounds, they're ugly-ass dogs.
Well, they're bred for racing, aren't they?
They are. Yeah, Scleromochlus. So it looks like, if you look at the image here, the other one, which will probably be the main image, it looks like a little dinosaur, but it's actually, like I said, a pterosauromorph, we believe. It's hard to tell, because, like, here's the thing. Pterosaurs are closely related to dinosaurs, but not... they are closely related. I mean, they're archosaurs, the same as dinosaurs. The archosaur group involves... There's three major groups. There's dinosaurs, and by extension birds, there's pterosaurs, and there's crocodilomorphs. And the pterosaurs and the dinosaurs are more closely related to each other than either of them are to crocodiles. But they're both...
Pinkto feathers are or pterosaur fuzz as it's often called. It's basically identical to the fuzz that dinosaurs had and gave rise to modern bird feathers.
Right, so it's like they evolved them initially, like back then, like before they branched off, or they simultaneously both evolved them.
Yeah. They have to have branched off from very early from the dinosaur split, into the Saurischians and Ornithischians.
Yeah, the Ornithischians, yeah, for sure. So, that's a whole can of worms where the Ornithischians actually starts. I've looked that up.
When someone calls a pterosaur a dinosaur or a flying dinosaur, they're both inaccurate but also accurate at the same time, because
they're not
unlike
fully
crocodiles, they actually are that closely related.
They're not fully accurate, but they're pretty close to. And it is funny, like because of how I said that dinosaurs are more closely related to pterosaurs than they are to crocodiles. By extension, that means birds are the modern day closest living relatives of pterosaurs. So which is weird to think about, but not crocodiles, but birds. So anyway, so like I said, Scleromochlus means hard limb, by the way, because of the long limb.
Hard liver, it says here.
Yes. Hard lever. Oh yeah, hard lever, hard limb. Make the predictable jokes you want with that. So, type, it's a pterosauromorph archosaur, a clade of early archosaurs that might have included the direct ancestors of pterosaurs, or there may have been some weird branch of their ancestors that ended after a bit, like evolution. Basically, Scleromochlus is the kind of creature that paleontologists look at, squint, and go, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, because evolution is not really goal-driven or purpose-driven. I mean, it does have a purpose in mind for the species that, that develop traits and, like... But it's not a conscious thinking thing. Like,
it is not.
The things that select are all random.
It is not. And also, we will never have the full puzzle, so we're constantly putting... It's like putting a puzzle together where we have 90% of the pieces missing. It's really annoying.
But like when you find there are some creatures where there's clear evidence in the skeletal structure based on what we can guess. I forget the creature in general, but it seems like evolution could not make its mind up over several million years of whether this thing was going to go in the water or stay on land before ultimately the water traits disappear and it becomes fully terrestrial again.
For sure. Well, it's sort of like with elephants that are like elephants. They were originally land-dwelling, then some of them became amphibious, then they went back onto land, and then, it's crazy.
But that's the origin of Sirenians, isn't it? Because the dugong and all that are closely related to elephants.
Yeah, they're Afrotheres as well, I believe, so they're somewhat closely related. Then you got those weird, what about those Desmostallions, the ones that have no modern descendants? Like Paleoparadoxia.
My brain's gone blank there. I know they've also closely related to Hyraxes, those little rat-like things.
I know, it's so weird. Like that's just bizarre that they are.
So, if Scleromochlus is a stem one, then it's a weird one, like what's happened with Herrerasaurus, if that's still considered stem sauropod at the moment, or sauropodomorph.
Size of 7 to 8 inches or 18 to 20 centimeters long. So pretty tiny. I think that's smaller than my cockatiel. Oh no, 8 inches. Maybe my cockatiel's longer than that. I don't know. Diet carnivore, presumably insectivore. Time late Triassic, 231 to 229 million years ago. Location Scotland, which is funny because you get the potentially first of the pterosaurs and the last of the plesiosaurs with Nessie. You're the bookmark of the non-dinosaur Mesozoic reptiles. Scotland. Nah, I'm just kidding.
Get my bagpipes ready.
Yes, and it's like, we got all these stuff we don't hear.
And when he's at the end of the Cretaceous, he shouts out Triassic, sorry, he shouts out freedom!
We bit of a scunner, that one!
Yeah. We're not mocking any of you, Scott,
no, of course.
Sorry if that sounds that way.
It's just an objectively funny accent. I'll be shooting for my own hand!
What? That one sounds a bit better than my Irish one, lad.
The Irish is just a wee bit, it's a bit higher pitched, It's like, you want me Lucky Charms. We invented potatoes.
An American Irish or Irish lad.
I think me mum has some Irish blood in here.
Oh, where can be South Africa?
South Africa, yes. I can't do that one.
No, I can only say welcome to South Africa in South Africa, and that's literally the only bit of the accent I can do.
I can do a really good Russian accent. We drink our vodka and we have some cool dinosaurs and mostly some Siberian, Indostrantsevia, the Gorgonopsid. That's a good Russian prehistoric creature.
Okay, that's a bit creepy because I cannot do that. Good kind of creepy, I mean.
Of course.
No, that's cool.
I'm just pretty proud of my Russian accent. Anyways,
Boris reporting. Like Red Alert 2, he's the Russian hero, or the Soviet hero unit for Yuri's Revenge since they made Yuri his own faction.
Oh, it's like, there's one place capitalism hasn't conquered yet. Space!
Red Alert 3.
That's the only one I know.
I was more Red Alert 2 and Red Alert 1. I never got into the third one.
Fair enough.
Red Alert 1 was serious, Red Alert 2 was campy, but was still taking itself seriously, and number 3 is completely self-aware.
Anyways, described in 1907, but it wasn't until 2022 when the high-res CT scan reignited interest in it as it began revealing this thing was actually more in line with pterosaurs than we thought. Pop culture appearances, absolutely nothing. Which is sad, but I guess it makes sense. It's kind of little, and also it's more interesting from a paleontological standpoint than like anything that the modern public would care about. So yeah, I know that thing.
The artwork of it on there looks like a inbred Compsognathus.
It looks almost exactly like the way the Compsognathus looks in The Lost World, except fuzzier and with a bigger head. But yeah,
and kangaroo feet.
But yeah. For sure. Yeah, no, it looks cute there. It looks like it's just about if you get a bunch of them, they will swarm.
I can legit see this guy hopping around the way compies hop around in The Lost World when they're chasing Dieter, and the way they're animated in both Jurassic World Evolution, since they just hop everywhere.
Well, I was thinking, like, what about the, they look kind of, they'll probably hop like the Leptictidium in Walking with Beasts.
True.
So,
but it's also bringing to mind just that generic sparrow hop. Like, have you ever seen a small bird like a sparrow down the ground? They don't even move their legs; they just sort of bounce up and down.
Yeah, I've seen them just the way they kind of like walk across the sand.
And I'm just like, how much helium have you had, bird?
They're kind of like a
you can
Legolas.
already fly. You don't need to get high.
They're like exactly. They're kind of like Legolas, where he walks just on top of the sand. His weight is just so little, you can just kind of like just.
Yes, the infamous Mario jumping scene from The Hobbit.
Because he's so light-footed that he does that. Sure, why not? It looks ridiculous. It does make sense in lore, but it looks so ridiculous.
It's rule of cool. It's a bit like, even though we now know the Tyrannosaurus scene actually does logically make sense, because of the way that its breakout is structured and where the slope is, you'd initially wonder, hang on, how did the T-Rex get out of here, and why was it standing there? And you go, now there's a big trench, like what the hell?
That trench in Jurassic Park, that's just, I mean, even Steven Spielberg admitted that was a mistake. That was just them, like, and it was just meant to add tension, and hopefully
and spectacle.
The hope was that you were so invested in the scene that you never noticed it, and most people didn't, actually.
But you can also rationalise it, because you do see a lot of modern reconstruction now. They do show that the T-Rex didn't just break one bit; the fences came down all across that bit, like where you had the pillar bouncing left and right in the wind, and all the cables broke from the Rex tearing the other one. So it could have, with the fact that it pushed the car down and along, it was probably further to the side. There'll be a hill there.
For sure. Well, I don't know. There's ways to justify it, there's ways to not. Yeah. I don't know. And I also, I as someone who's who often sometimes takes little shortcuts for the sake of tension for riding, I personally don't care. It's just us seeing a little bit of the strings behind the puppets. So,
Yes.
So this is a lightly built cursorial animal, which, by the way, is a term for meaning one adapted specifically to run or to hop, kind of like a horse, or it's like it's been a long time, like, about how its phylogenetic position, where exactly it was. But right now it seems to be assumed, based in 2022, after reconstructing complete skeleton, that it suggests that it was a member of the pterosauromorphs, which is the overall clade that does include the pterosaurs, but is not. This isn't specifically a pterosaur yet, but it is in the lineage that would eventually go to it, because pterosauromorphs include all pterosaurs as well as some other creatures that like didn't become pterosaurs but got close. Like, what are some other ones that like Lagerpetin? Was one like a weird thing like that.
Yeah. If you want a good example, look at the primate family tree. There's a lot of animals within the primatoid, or whatever we call it, that are especially at the branch of the tree that we like. Obviously, we recognise them as primates, but if you were to look at them without knowing what a primate is, you wouldn't necessarily compare them to ape or a monkey. Like the tarsier looks absolutely nothing like a primate.
Oh, you're talking about like the ones in Madagascar, the lemurs, kind of, as well.
Not just the lemurs, the tarsier. You know, the one that's got the really weird feet, and then they got the really big eyes.
Yeah, those. Yeah, and then like the bush babies. Yeah,
that is what it is. Oh, right.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be no name for it. Yeah, like the whatever Mort was in Madagascar.
Mort. Yeah, I think he might be a tarsier.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the whole thing of, like, you know how some creationists are like, well, if humans evolved from monkeys, why are there still monkeys? It's like, well, because we branch off, dumbass. Like, that's how evolution.
Yeah. It's annoying. Like, even amongst people that aren't having like a creationist or strictly religious reaction to it, like, just a silly question. Like, I get it. Not everyone goes on it, but evolution doesn't work in a way like, hang on, if we came from apes or monkeys, why they're still here. It's like, it doesn't work like that. It's not like
every single monkey evolved into like every single like.
Yeah, and it's like, take the Galapagos for example. The ancestral finch that gave rise to all those ones there, it didn't stop existing. It still exists around the world, or it did, depending on when they diverged.
Exactly. So, and then looking at like the group of pterosaur, there's a group called Avimetatarsiae, which includes all archosaurs, more closely related to birds and the crocodilians, this includes all pterosaurs and all dinosaurs and all birds. So, and then there's certain creatures that are in that group specifically, but we can't really go much closer than that. And this one was one of them, but we can get a little bit closer to that compared to like things like Ixalopiton and Congonaphan, which, oh my god, look at this thing. It's so cute. It looks... okay, this thing...
I'm looking out.
Congonaphan. It's Kongonaphon. It looks kind of like one of those creatures in The New Dinosaurs by Dougal Dixon.
Chuck me a link.
Oh, you want a link? Okay, cool. Hold on.
Yeah.
I thought you were looking. I thought you said you were looking it up, but so I didn't send one yet. Look at that thing.
No, sorry, I zoned out because there was a weird bird outside my window.
Fair enough. Weird birds are fun to look at.
Ah, you weren't kidding.
Doesn't it look like one of those creatures in... I forget what it's called, but in The New Dinosaurs, that like one of the arbosaurs...
No, I know what you mean. There was also some pterodactyls that sort of have a look a bit like that kind of feathering coat type thing.
Yeah, it's so funny how Dougal Dixon was like, some pterosaurs would evolve into giraffes, like the lynx, and then now we realize that most of them, like the Asdarchids, were kind of like giraffes, other than that they still flew. So he was kind of a little ahead of his time there. And
that was the weird thing here. The pterosaur, a lot of the later pterosaurs had a thing like they were so terrestrial, yet they still flying because the way their limbs were structured, they still had the flight wasn't necessarily a disadvantage. It didn't cost them as energy in the way it does with birds because they have a different method of flying with a lot of gliding involved. But also because of the structure of their limbs, because it's a finger, they don't have the handicap bats do where all their fingers are the bloody wing, or where birds do where their fingers are fused into a single joint and thus can't really use the hand anymore, so when they lose flight, they lose the wings in general. Pterosaurs could keep it.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's what I was getting at.
That makes sense. But I was going to say, though, like, in terms of those later ones, I definitely think that... it would have been cool for, and again, I like Jurassic World Dominion, but I think rather than a Giganotosaurus being the villain, what if it was a Quetzalcoatlus? And yeah, they already had it in the movie.
That really could have worked.
Yeah.
Because the Rex would have had a hard time fighting it.
I know, but imagine that scene where after the group's all together, and then the Giganotosaurus comes crawling through the imagine that, but a Quetzalcoatlus slender manning through the
when they after the "It's My Parents" scene.
Yeah. After that scene, and then they're about to go over to that research tower. Imagine that, but instead of a Giganotosaurus, it's a Quetzalcoatlus. It's not flying; it's just walking, but it's still just as tall. And
honestly, that would have worked really well, and they could have even had a bit where they had to hide in long grass from it, or reeds or something.
And also, it could have worked with if they wanted to have the Cretaceous prologue. That actually fits with the time frame and the time and place. If instead of it being killed by the Proto-Rex being killed by Giganotosaurus, it would have been killed by, let's say, a hyper-aggressive and maybe a bit bulky Quetzalcoatlus. Yeah. And that would have been...
While we're on this subject, the Giganotosaurus itself wasn't the issue in Dominion. No. It was more just that they tried... It basically... was yet again another case of we saw very little of the Rex compared to Fallen Kingdom, where we see her a fair bit.
Right.
It was like with Jurassic World, whereas at least Roberta only appearing at the end made sense, and she was losing the fight at first because it's a young animal, she's old, and it's a hybrid,
freaking hybrid, yeah.
But yeah, Roberta having a repeat of that in Dominion was very stupid. I don't mind her fighting the Giga, but the fact that she got on the losing end again was just disrespectful.
I did like the bit in the extended cut, though, when you see her when she's laying down, and then there's a brief flash, to the
second wind,
where it's the Cretaceous, and you see the little proto-feathers again, and the trees again. So it's like she's remembering her past life, which is pretty cool. But other than that, no, I agree.
But I think what should have done, the Giga being in that was fine. It probably should have had
it should have killed more people.
See it chasing them. Yeah, you see it killing people, chasing. You see it there, but instead of the bit where they do the fire in the mouth thing. Yeah. But instead of it appearing at the end to attack, the T-Rex scares it off, and then you have the T-Rex trying to chase off the Quetzalcoatlus that destroyed the plane.
Right. I did like that there's Therizinosaurus,
the problem here is that Roberta, I refuse to use the term Rexy.
Yeah, fair enough.
She's not losing because it's a fair fight. She's having trouble purely because she's trying to get close to this thing, and it's using its beak like an axe. That way, it's not disrespectful to the Rex. It's not yet another new theropod upstaging the king of the Tyrant Lizard King. It's an animal she's having trouble fighting because it's got a long neck and it's got a sharp bloody beak.
It is, and especially if it pokes it in surgical places like the eye or something, like it could do some real damage. But no, I just think that'd be cool. And again, I don't mind the Giganosaurus other than it doesn't kill anyone. Its kill count is one locust. Like it doesn't, which is like it didn't deserve that horrible death it got via the getting stabbed by the Therizinosaurus.
It did manage to be terrifying though, insofar as the last 3 films are terrifying. Like when it's chasing them and trying to get at them, like you genuinely do feel, hang on, it could actually eat Maisie if.
For sure. And I actually do like the design of it. I like the weird spikes in the hump, and I think it looks cool. Anyways, I'm gonna rate Scleromochlus 36 million because while it is cool that it's a early pterosaur, and for us to see that they started out kind of like dinosaurs looking, even though they weren't, but it's still kind of little and still kind of it's more interesting in like what it led to rather than it itself as a creature. So
indeed. I think I shall rate it 0 out of 10. Looks like it belongs in Australia again.
It kind of does. It kind of looks like it also looks a little bit like a Roadrunner. Like, I've seen Roadrunners here.
But for a more serious rating now, I'd probably give it like 12 million.
12 million's fair enough. I think my 36 million's maybe a bit generous. But I like that it's a little pterosaur. I think it's really cool. I've shown this to people and be like, hey, this thing, it looks like a dinosaur, but it's not. It's a little relative of pterosaurs, or pterodactyls, I say, to dumb it down for them. And they're like, oh, wow, that's cool.
Did we manage to get through the first one just before with little to no sidetrack, and then this one we just went all over the place?
It'll be fine. That's Paleobites for you. That's it for this week, though. If you want to get a hold of the show, you can contact me at paleobytespodcast@gmail.com, at Paleobytes Podcast on Blue Sky and TikTok, or MatthewDonald64 on Blue Sky or Twitter or Instagram or whatever, or TikTok. Anyways, I have books on Amazon Megazoic available for print to Kindle. I had no idea if this thing existed by the time I wrote them. Also, even if I did know, I have no idea what I would do with it in the Megazoic book. Also, it's not a dinosaur, so it wouldn't have been intelligent based on the rules of I put in my book series. So, yeah. So it's not like it would be a little sniper rifle or anything like that. But that'd be fun.
Indeed.
All right. That's it for this week. So long. Get out of here. See you next time. Blah. Thanks for listening. If you want to further support the show, you should subscribe to my Patreon at patreon.com/MatthewDonald, where you can get ad-free episodes and you can get the raw, unedited episodes. So go and check it out at patreon.com/MatthewDonald. Thank you so much for listening, and have a good day. Chomp.